Bonjour, mes amis. Soyez bienvenus à une conversation de Virna Lorentz et ses livres. So, for more information, that's as good as my French gets, so I'm speaking English now. Virna has a wonderful website, www.virnalorentz.com, where you can read about her. But I'll give you a brief summation because she really has a fascinating biography. She was born in the southeast of France and very young thought that she would have a career in theater. However, early on, guided by the fact that she is both Roma and Breton, she decided to become a linguist, or more precisely, a translator and interpreter. To that end, she graduated from the Faculty of Letters, Arts, and Humanities in Nice, then the Institute of Translators, Interpreters, and International Relations in Strasbourg, which is over in the east part of France, part of Alsace-Lorraine. So she's mastered 5 languages, which makes me really embarrassed that I could barely speak French along with English. And for many years worked in business, but then passionate about literature. The idea for her first novel, which she'll be discussing, Lune Pourpre, came to her as obvious today after a visit to Rouen Cathedral on a snowy day in December of 2002. And it's set in rural and superstitious Normandy in the 16th century. It took, good heavens, it took you 18 years to actually.
No. I'm gonna explain everything about it.
Okay.
In a minute. No.
All right, that'll be great. And then we'll be talking about further books, Mirage Blue, her second novel, Arizona Stars, her third one, and whatever else that she would like to talk about. So Virna has prepared a slideshow that will guide us in discussing her work. So Virna, I'm going to pass this over to you. And I could say that slide number 1 is a start about explaining your professional background, perhaps more fully than I just did.
Many thanks for inviting me, first of all. Many thanks to Poison Pen Bookstore. Many thanks to the Alliance Française of the Greater Phoenix. And also to fabulous French Quarter magazine in Las Vegas. The editor-in-chief, Mrs. Isabelle Caramoz, will write an article about this presentation. So thank you all for being here.
It's really a pleasure on our part. And I see that you have some wonderful images here, one a book signing in Crèvecoeur Castle in Normandy, and another in Rio de Janeiro. So you have traveled internationally with your work.
Traveling has become, over the years, an integral part of my writing process without me noticing, really. So in Crèvecoeur Castle, Normandy, this was my second book signing. I spent the whole weekend at the castle signing my first novel, Purple Moon, in French, Lune Pourpre. Was freezing. You can see I was I was very cold there, but it's a lovely place. And then this was in 2019, May. And the next picture was taken last year in Rio de Janeiro at the annual book festival. It took place at the local French high school. So it was a great event as well. But I was with my first 2 novels because the Arizona Stars hadn't been published at the time.
I see. All right. You said you speak 5 languages, Virna. What languages are they? I need to plug in the computer, so I'm going to go sideways here for a minute before the battery runs out. Tell us about your language mastery.
Brazilian, Portuguese, Italian, well, French is my mother tongue, What else? Spanish and English.
It's very impressive. If you can speak Portuguese, sorry, I just have to plug this in here.
Yeah.
There we go.
Sure.
I'm very impressed because I find that of the Romance languages, Portuguese for me has always been the most difficult to pronounce.
Probably a little bit. French is not bad regarding regarding pronunciation.
Well,
I think it's a nightmare, really. Well, to foreigners, I think so.
you know, it's interesting because I'm a serious opera fan, and Italian, because it has pure vowel sounds, is a wonderful language for singing. Whereas French, with the nasal sounds, you know, can make it far more difficult. So I think for people, English speaking people, Italian might be easier just because you don't have to master the R and the But anyway, another question before we move to slide 2 is, why did you decide to write a novel set in Las Vegas and one in Arizona? I love that.
Because nothing compares to Vegas. As I know that you traveled across France and Europe, and so you know that nothing compares to Las Vegas.
But
Yeah,
we
and Arizona, because I became infatuated with Monument Valley and, you know, the Grand Canyon and Tombstone. I visited Tombstone in June this year. Fabulous place.
Mhm.
Fabulous place. I really love Arizona and Las Vegas. So each time I can travel to the States, I always see those places.
You know, there's a very long-standing French fascination with the American West. You know, Buffalo Bill Cody did touring in France. A Western novelists here that, like Craig Johnson and C.J. Box, who write about Wyoming, are well published in France. So I like it that you, as a French person, are, you know, fascinated here and actually come to Nevada and Arizona.
Yeah, the Grand Canyon State is a real source of inspiration for me, and it will always be.
It's
And
hard to, yes, it's very hard to, for anybody who hasn't seen it, both the colors and the scope of it, the size of it, are almost impossible to convey to somebody. You know, pictures don't really do it justice. But here we are at slide 2, dedicated to your first novel, Purple Moon, or Lune Pourpre. So
yeah,
tell us a bit about the process that you went through in order to write it, because it's a big achievement to write and publish a book. And the first one is a scary thing to do, I think, for most writers.
it's a big achievement, especially in France, because France is not America. So there is only 1% of the, how do you call them, the manuscripts that are published on the French market, only 1%. And it's an incredible story. All happened in 2002 when I visited Normandy for the first time, and it's the capital of Normandy, which is the city of Rouen. It was just before Christmas. And so one day I was on a holiday. My mum was living there. And so I visited the magnificent cathedral, Notre-Dame de Rouen, surrounded by half-timbered houses. The market square where Joan of Arc had been burnt at the stake. The Joan of Arc Museum, I remember it was snowing that day. So I was absolutely thrilled about the Christmas atmosphere because the region, Normandy, has nothing to do with southern France, where I'm from. And the next day, I woke up. Would you believe it or not? I woke up having in mind the idea for my first novel, Lune Pourpre, having in mind the main characters, of course, the plot, and the outcome. So I was thrilled, but at the same time, it was very disturbing, troublesome idea, inspiration, because at the time I was setting up my language services company. So a very down-to-earth career, a non-artistic career. I already had a clientele to satisfy. So it was a very disturbing idea and inspiration, because it was definitely not the right time to focus on a long writing process. So very disturbing. So I thought, well, let's keep it in mind. And one day, maybe when I retire, I'll write the whole story, because I knew it would be long. Then I got the opportunity to throw myself into the writing process 15 years later. So that's how all started.
Well, that's very impressive. And it does illustrate the hold that the story had on you, that you were not able to forget it. I do want to ask you, because I'm fascinated with it, what is the black cat, Le Chat Noir, in the illustration by the artist? What part of the story does the cat play?
It's the black cats are everywhere in the book, because the plot, the story takes place, or the story unfolds at the beginning of the 16th century. So at the time of Inquisition. And so black cats, well, people were not very friendly, black cats.
Hmm. Well,
because at the time, they thought they were evil.
in much English literature, cats were thought back to be witches' familiars, as you say, kind of. And so we're in an interesting period. Medieval France was, I mean, much French history is religious wars, as well as the English occupation, and France really didn't come together as an entire nation for a long time. There were duchies and kingdoms and so forth, but I really like that illustration with the purple moon and the black cat. I think it's very evocative. Who is the young lady on the cover under the rose? Who is she?
It's a famous painting, but I had no choice about the front cover. It had to be a painting, because it's a historical novel. So the publisher was quite strict about the front page, and about witchcraft. I think you mentioned witchcraft. Mm-hmm. There is a suspicion of witchcraft with a trial with ordeal, a trial by ordeal in the book. Mm-hmm. You have three main characters Hermine, Clovis, et Aurore. So 2 girls and 1 boy. So it becomes like a love triangle.
Mm.
And a fierce rivalry springs up and leading to a suspicion of witchcraft with a trial by ordeal at the time of the Inquisition. So it's a historical drama.
Well, I will say,
And
sorry, go ahead.
no, just the illustration you like by the artist Rex Robin. She's my cousin.
Ah, okay. Well, an
Yeah.
amazing job. I really like it. So it was quite a jump from medieval Normandy to Arizona Stars, which is the book we're going to be showing now. And so did you had this one historical novel in mind, but then did you decide that writing a more contemporary story was going to be your way forward as an author?
I didn't decide anything because yeah, this is I have a lot to say about inspiration really, because in my point of view, inspiration should always comes out of the blue. It should always come out of the blue. Should be innate. You can't build up inspiration. You can't decide to be inspired. It came out of the blue in my case, and it was a wonderful experience. And inspiration should be innate, as it was for me, so that you can describe genuine feelings and emotions and characters. So last year in Rio de Janeiro, so as you know, I was at the annual book festival. And after the festival, I was interviewed by 2 students from the local high school, local French high school. And they asked me to advise them on how, on the best way to start up a writer's career. And my answer was obviously unexpected, because I don't think that a writer's career can be planned. I don't think that you can study for a writer's career, or that you can plan a writer's career. Some pathways may serve as a springboard, pathways like, literature, linguistics, translation, philosophy. But all these subjects, pathways, will primarily give access to a down-to-earth career and a non-artistic career, as my career was at the very beginning, because I was absolutely not destined to become a writer. I started my career, as you said before, as a translator interpreter specialized in international law, as a languages instructor in the oil and gas industry. So I was light years away from the writing and publishing world. And it happened. And so I followed, from the beginning, I followed my inspiration. I didn't follow my ambition, because my ambition was not to become a writer, not in a million years. I would have liked to, work as a translator at the European Parliament, or at the United Nations, or NATO, whatever. And then when I started working here on the French Riviera, there was a huge demand for Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese and Portuguese.
Mhm.
So I took the opportunity, but that's not what I would have liked, you know. So I followed my destiny and my inspiration, not my ambition at all. That's
Well,
the story.
you obviously had, you know, I hate the word tools, but you obviously had the skills. You had developed the skills that a writer needs, a love of language, you know, an understanding of syntax and understanding of character, all those things you had learned from your studies and your career as a translator. So it's not as big a jump for you to have written as it might be from somebody who, let's say, you know, was a ballerina or something similar in the arts.
Yeah. Yeah, working as a linguist helps a lot, of
Mhm.
course.
Right.
And
And
I studied literature. I studied literature, foreign literature, at the University of Arts and Humanities of Nice. So it helped. Yeah,
so
it
we
helped.
have an excerpt here on the screen from Arizona Stars. And would you like me to read the English and then you read the French?
Please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the page here from Arizona Stars. Final touch up to her cherry lipstick, 3 little sprays of perfume to her neck, an intentionally messy chignon from which a few loose jet black curls escaped here and there. That's a wonderful description. All right. Now in French.
This is a description of Madison, the main character of Arizona Stars. So in French, it is rouge à lèvres cerise pour une ultime retouche, 3 petits pchits de sambon dans le cou, chevelure coiffée en chignon faussement négligé, douce échappée ça et là, de larges boucles G. Yeah, you know, it's a terrible language because you don't pronounce half of the letters, but hey, that's French.
It is
Enjoy.
adorable. The reason I'm laughing is that when I was my last 2 years at Stanford, I studied Russian. And on its best day, well, or on its worst day, let me say, French is not as difficult as Russian. So I don't regard it as as challenging. For one thing, there are no declensions in French. And there is an order to the language that is logical, which, you know, which I appreciate. English, after all, is a real potpourri of, you know, many languages and whatever. And
French word.
yeah, and
Potpourri.
it is a potpourri, you know. I mean, there's so many words from so many different other tongues, and it's constantly both in an internet age, it's constantly getting new words and new meanings. Words that used to mean something now have taken on a different signifier. So I don't want to be political and, you know, say that Trump doesn't mean what it means anymore. Queer doesn't mean what it meant originally. And so, you know, language is constantly evolving. But I think French is more precise, and maybe French is not quite so prone, you could tell me, because I don't really know this, to morph into the moment so that suddenly a word that has meant something means something else.
Yeah, well, you can have different meanings for the same word. Huh? I guess it's confusing for foreigners who are learning the language. No, French is definitely a difficult language. Sometimes, you know, I don't always enjoy writing.
Really?
In my own language, no, because it's all about, you know, sometimes tearing your hair out, really, because there are so many rules and so many exceptions that, well, it drives me mad sometimes, and you think, well, give up, really.
So
But
in France, is your work based in part about how purely you have written in the French language?
yeah, a lot. Yeah, I always have by my side le dictionnaire de l'Académie française, dictionary of the French Academy. So you're pretty sure not to make a huge mistake in the syntax or in the grammar. It's a nightmare. It can be a real headache, even to a French speaker. Well, a real migraine, I would say.
Well, here's another excerpt from Arizona Stars, so I will again read the English part. With her hands clasped around a bouquet of white roses sprinkled with pearly shells, Madison moved forward shyly, captivated by Greg's marveled eyes. As she drew close to her fiancé, they smiled at each other in awe, like partners in crime who are about to commit the heist of the century. Ooh, I love that. Right. That's very dramatic, pushing the action forward with the heist of the century.
Have you noticed that in this excerpt you have in English, you see, two French words?
Mm-hmm. I hope I pronounced them in French. I certainly said fiancé properly.
Fiancé is perfect, and bouquet as well is a
Yeah.
French word. Yeah. So you want to read it in French? Should I? In French?
Yes, sure.
Les mains jointes autour d'un bouquet de roses blanches parsemées de coquillages nacrés, Madison avança, intimidée, les yeux perdus dans le regard émerveillé de Greg. Arrivés à la hauteur de son fiancé, tous deux se sourirent, impressionnés et complices, comme s'ils étaient à deux doigts de commettre le casse du siècle.
Very nice. So, can you tell us briefly in English what the story of Arizona Stars is?
Yeah, of course. So I met, well, the main character is Madison. I met Madison in 2015 in Las Vegas. Madison is the granddaughter of Elise, and Elise is a Norman lady whose family belonged to the polite society of Évreux, Normandy. Madison is also the granddaughter of Bradley, and Bradley was because he was murdered. He was an Afro-American GI from New Orleans, a hero who landed on in 1944, June 6th. So this is about Madison. And in August 2016, so she's also an Afro-American stunning woman, young lady. And so she lives in Las Vegas and she works as a spa manager. And in 2016, she decides to travel to Normandy for the first time. So she makes the journey across the United States from west to east and then the Atlantic. Officially to satisfy her wanderlust and to discover the region. But in reality, this is not the case at all. She strives to get to the bottom of her grandfather's murder, committed in 1944 and made to look like he had drowned just after the D-Day landings. The murder was never solved. So that's the main reason why she travels to Normandy for the first time on her own. And in the heat of a summery Friday evening, she crosses paths with a handsome, dashing young man in his 30s, whose name is Greg. So both start dating each other. They become inseparable. They fall in love. Greg introduces Madison to his friends and to his best friend, Max. Meanwhile, Madison finds out that her grandmother, Elise, had been engaged to Max's grandfather. So all the destinies are starting to get tangled up in the story. And Greg and Madison start a long distance relationship because when they met in Deauville, fabulous beach resort in Normandy, they were both vacationing for different reasons. Greg is Norman, so his mother and his grandparents live in Normandy. He lives in Paris and works there as a trader. And Madison, well, I already explained why Madison traveled to Normandy. Well, because she wants to shed light on her grandfather's murder before Elise passes away. Because at the time, Elise is already at the time Elise was already more than 90. She was 92 or 93, I can't remember. So a long relationship, a long distance relationship, and 4 months later they secretly get married in Las Vegas.
Ah. Okay, so now we can see about Las Vegas. You know, I love the fact that it's in Deauville because I was there, I'm trying to remember, not that long ago. And it reminded me, Deauville was a very glamorous beach resort. And there are whole along the promenade along the water there today, there are tables and chairs set out, and the chairs have on the back of them names of all the famous people. Well, not all, but anyway, huge number of famous people who had been to Deauville, many of them American, many of them movie stars. And it was, and there's some wonderful buildings, some sort of old-fashioned,
Yeah.
you know, gorgeous hotels there. So yeah, I can, it was really like stepping back in time, you know, to visit it. So how fun that you have written about. Now, what is the significance here of the message in the bottle? This is a new slide that has come up.
Yeah, but can we go back to the previous one?
Sure.
Please.
Patrick, can you move us back?
Previous.
Sorry, he's going to have to go back. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
great. Yeah.
Right.
So then, well, they got married in Las Vegas.
Okay.
The 1 year later, they organized a church wedding with their respective families in New Orleans, because Madison is from New Orleans.
Okay.
Then Greg finally settles down with Madison in Las Vegas, but the couple needs to return to Normandy because Greg's father dies. And they need to settle the estate. And this will be the beginning of a journey from hell that will bring to the surface an unbelievable truth about the murder of Madison's grandfather, 74 years after the fact, after the event. And of course, it will be also challenging the couple's stability. and I cannot go further, otherwise it's
No,
you
I
know.
see that. Now, when you talk about curiosities in Arizona Stars, you have some titles like Chapter 9, Gone with the Wind, or Chapter 4, The Bridges of Madison County. What do those relate to?
So yeah, that's a yeah. I wanted I wanted this in my book. Each title in French is the official translation of a very well-known English or Spanish movie titles.
Okay,
So let me explain. For example, chapter 1, Talons aiguilles, high heels. In Spanish, tacones lejanos. This is a very famous Pedro Almodovar movie. So why did I choose this title? I have no intention of revealing, all the details about Greg and Madison's first encounter in Deauville. But when they first meet, it has a lot to do with the high heels, the stilettos she is wearing that night. So her stilettos serve as a good excuse for him to approach her. And that's the reason why I chose the title Talons aiguilles, high heels, tacones lejanos in Spanish.
I see. I think that's a
Then,
wonderful. I really like that. I realized when I was looking sur la route de Madison that you were, looking at Madison County, and I've never seen Gone with the Wind translated into French, but I like that. Autant en emporte le vent.
yes,
And you've given the year of the film, right? So 1939 was the year that Gone with the Wind
yeah,
released. Um, so I like that. I mean, these are what we call in English in fiction Easter eggs, meaning that these are little sort of hidden things that the reader can enjoy if the reader is able to uncover them.
uh-huh, absolutely. Yeah, in French it would be une fantaisie, peut-être, maybe. Also, Une bouteille à la mer, Message in a Bottle. This is a famous American movie starring Mel Gibson. No, not Mel Gibson. Kevin Costner and
Okay,
Michelle Pfeiffer. This is the next slide, Patrick. Thank you.
okay, there we go.
Yeah. So if you want, you can read the excerpt, and then I'll explain everything.
Certainly. You passed away too early. Fate is a killer. It robbed the last 3 generations of our family of the love that you wanted to give us. May the Lord help me to find your murderer so that justice can be done. It has been over half a century since Elise lost hope of finding out the truth before joining you wherever you are. And Elise is the 90-some-year-old woman, right?
Absolutely. Madison's grandmother.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
From
So,
Normandy. The Norman grandmother.
all right. So, en français.
En français. Tu as disparu bien trop tôt. Le sort est assassin. Il a privé les 3 dernières générations de notre famille de tout l'amour que tu aurais voulu nous donner. Que le ciel m'accorde de retrouver ton meurtrier afin que justice soit rendue. Il y a plus d'un demi-siècle qu'Élise désespère de connaître l'épilogue avant de te rejoindre, où que tu sois.
Very nice. It's more lyrical in French, I think. But it was I'm going to reveal. Patrick, tell me this in case she doesn't know. Is this a Nicholas Sparks book that set off Message in a Bottle? For some reason, it sort of feels like that. It might be based on one of his novels, but I could be way wrong. Do you know?
I think you're right, Barbara.
Yeah, I think it was a Nicholas Sparks book that called
Wow.
Message in a Bottle. I might be Patrick can look it up because he does
No,
that sort of thing.
That's correct. Yeah, and then there's also the iconic Police song, "Message in the Bottle."
Oh, okay, gotcha. Right. Well, there we are. Right. Okay, so if we're going,
Why message in a bottle?
why
You
is
want
it?
to know the title? Why did I choose message in a bottle? Because
Okay.
um, the day just after they met, the day after they met, Greg drives Madison to Omaha Beach because she wants to commune with herself and also to pay tribute to the DJ landing heroes.
Mhm.
Of course, he doesn't know anything about uh, Madison's family. He doesn't know anything about the murder of Madison's grandfather. He doesn't know that Bradley, Madison's grandfather, was among the GIs who landed in June 6,
Right.
1944. So he doesn't know anything about her because they've just met. And so at some point in this chapter number 2, I think it's number 2, isn't it? Yeah, it's chapter number 2. She throws a bottle into the sea with a message dedicated to her grandfather. And this is the message.
I see. It's lovely. One would like to think that he answers. We'll see as we move along. All right, so the next slide is
Ah,
the Moulin Rouge, right, which I've been to in Paris, but not in Las Vegas. So a famous nightclub, Toulouse-Lautrec, often painted scenes from it. It's in Montmartre and really an iconic image. Why did you choose to incorporate it?
so this is chapter 4, if I remember well. So the Moulin Rouge is featured in chapter 4, whose title is Sur la route de Madison, the bridges of Madison County. And so, as I told you, Greg and Madison met where they were both on vacation, and the night before she travels back to Las Vegas, he organizes a memorable dinner and show at the Moulin Rouge, of course, to please her for a dazzling evening. But also because both are dreading the upcoming geographical breakup they are going to experience due to their respective careers and lives. And so by my side, I took the opportunity to describe the ferry review, the show, because I attended this show 4 times, and first time was in 2009. And it has changed quite a lot over the years, because in 2009, tiny ponies, monkeys, and huge pythons were involved in the show, whereas now, well, it's not the case anymore due to animal welfare measures. So, well, I love cabarets. So, in my upcoming novel, 4th novel, I'll describe the show of another very famous Parisian cabaret.
Aha, Le Folie Bergère?
No,
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 no.
Crazy Horse.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow, wow,
And
fascinating.
I saw the show of the Crazy Horse in Las Vegas in 2009 too.
Hmm.
Crazy Horse dancers were in Vegas at the MGM Grand Hotel. Yeah, it was fascinating. Great show.
I'm fascinated with that. I mean, I said we talked earlier about the connection or the fascination that the French have with the American West, but I hadn't really kind of moved it on to Crazy Horse. So there we go. Right. So there we go. So these are two novels that are in a way you said perhaps a duology, although you can read them separately.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Mirage Blues is my second novel based on true events.
Right.
So the star couple in Mirage Blues, well, this is Elise and Bradley, Madison's grandparents. Where did they met in Évreux, Normandy, at a ball organized by the mayor in honor of the Allies, just after D-Day landings. So another atmosphere, of course, because Mirage Blues is a historical novel, nothing to do with Luneburg, of course, because Luneburg was at the beginning of the 16th century. Mirage Blues, features the 1940s and the 1950s. Half of the novel unfolds in Normandy, and the other half in New Orleans.
Right. But you managed to get to Monument Valley at some point.
Not in Mirage Blues.
No, in Arizona Stars, right?
Yeah. So a different generation. This is, in Mirage Blues, you have Elise and Bradley,
Right.
the first generation according to the saga chronology. And in Arizona Stars, the plot unfolds nowadays from 2016 to 2018. And it's the third generation, the grandchildren, I would say.
So are these two books completing the story? And is your new book, your fourth book, going to be something completely different?
Something completely different, a thriller.
Ah.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I don't know the reason why a thriller. Maybe because I'm getting bored with most thrillers I'm reading. I just want to break the pattern because I find it quite boring. It's always the same story, more or less. The reader or the viewer on TV usually finds out about the whys and wherefores of the plot thanks to the very good job of law enforcement officials. Then the investigators usually solve the case and the culprits are unmasked. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this pattern. So, in my thriller, an innocent is charged with the double murder, and the culprits will live happy forever and more on a remote, exotic island for billionaires. So the outcome is evil, scandalous, subversive, shocking, and I love it.
Well, good for you. You have to have passion for what you're doing, or it doesn't make any sense. Patrick, is there another slide? There.
My favorite, yeah, but my favorite place in the world, my favorite landscape in the world, Monument Valley.
Did you like the John Wayne Westerns that were books? I mean, movies like Stagecoach. Have you watched those?
I grew up with these movies thanks to my parents. So, Monument Valley is like a dream come true, really. When you see it for real, it's impressive, really.
It truly is. We've been through it many times and actually have stayed at the now Native American run. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but there's a lodge that they created, not the one that was there. Well, the one that was,
Ah,
it's called The View. That's it. I knew I'd remember it. And what's interesting about The View is that from the front, it doesn't look that extraordinary, but when you check into a room and step out on your balcony, the scenery beyond it is truly just breathtaking. And then you can drive past behind the view and do a tour of it. So I still remember that. It's an extraordinary thing. Those old movies like Stagecoach were only shot in black and white. So I think one of the surprises for somebody who comes to Monument Valley based on those old movies is the color.
also, yeah, also. But just to see it for real instead of, seeing it on TV,
Right.
well, changes everything, of course, and you feel like you're in a movie.
And it's true. If you drive it from Arizona north to Utah, it looks like one thing. But if you come into it from the north, if you come into it from Utah and you drive south down through the valley towards Arizona, it's completely different. And I'm afraid a lot of people don't have don't do both directions, so that you don't really see the perspectives and the shapes and the light changing and all the rest of it is so different depending on which way you're heading. Did you have a chance to do that, to drive one way and then turn around and come back the other?
No. We just came, I don't know where from, by the way, across Utah.
Right.
Then
So
across Utah.
you drove south, and there is a tremendous vista when you come in from Utah. The road goes a very long way, and you have this extraordinary vista. When you come in from Arizona, those great shapes are very close to you, and then you move away from them. So, it's, as I said, quite different. I think the way you did it is the more impressive.
Okay, but I'll do the other way next time.
You should. And then the view that I was mentioning to you is on the Arizona end of it. So you can stay there and do that and then go north. Anyway, would you like me to read this little bit about Monument Valley? Okay.
Please.
Monument Valley is like the first slow dance that we did together. The site has become a landmark in our relationship. It symbolizes an unparalleled moment of happiness. That's lovely.
Monument Valley, c'est un peu comme le premier slow sur lequel nous aurions dansé. Ce site devient un point de repère dans le fil de notre histoire. Le symbole, l'empreinte d'un instant de bonheur sans pareil.
I like sans pareil. I think that basically without equal, which I think is a lovely, unparalleled is not quite as impressive to me as, unequal. But anyway, I do like that very much. So here we come to the last word. This is Virna's website that I mentioned to you before, www.virnalorentz.com. And then there are her social media handles, as we say. Facebook, Virna Lorentz, Instagram, Virna Lorentz.
Yeah.
And is there anything you'd like to say further about your literary projects, or have we pretty much covered it for the moment?
No, one more thing about the title of the book, Arizona Stars. Greg and Madison go on a road trip across Arizona, and they spend, as you did, one night in Monument Valley. And he has planned to ask Madison to marry him, and he puts his deepest wish into action while stargazing with her. So that's why I gave the title Arizona Stars. It's all about titles in this novel. I don't know why, but hey, that was the inspiration of the moment.
Sure. Well, it's been a very successful book in France, and there is no current English language edition, but you can buy Virna's work in French. You can buy it from Amazon.fr, the French Amazon. Librairie Gallimard, Gallimard, is a very famous French, well, they're a publisher, but I guess they're also a bookseller. Is that right?
Yeah, that is the very last slide, I think, Barbara. I don't know if Patrick.
Here, because do you have the final slide with the links? Let's see if you can find it. No, was there one more?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see Amazon.fr. You can see adcl.maya, MAIA.com, and then you can see.
Yeah, this is my Parisian publisher website.
Okay. And then, as I mentioned, there's the Librairie Gallimard. And then finally, there's a different one, fnac.com. What does that stand for?
This is a huge bookstore in all over the country in France.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay. Sort of like Barnes and Noble or H.W. Smith, right? So those of you watching who might want to, you could take a screenshot of this final slide and take it that way. Anyway, I hope that, Virna, next time you come to Arizona, you will come to see us in Scottsdale, which is, after all, Western.
I promise.
Okay.
Definitely. So you see, we did it all in English, but yeah, we are in Arizona, so yeah, I didn't want to do it in French anyway. Thank you so much.
Do you want to say a final few words in French to your French viewers? Please do.
Eh bien, pour les Français et francophiles qui seront arrivés au bout de cet entretien, j'espère que vous aurez compris le propos de cette conversation. Et sinon, vous pouvez retrouver toutes les infos sur mon site www.virnalorentz.com. Je remercie Barbara de la fabuleuse librairie Poison Pen. J'adore le nom Poison Pen. Je remercie Janine de l'Alliance française Pride of Phoenix et Isabelle, rédactrice en chef et fondatrice du fabuleux French Quarter Magazine, qui m'a nommée cette année, qui m'a fait l'honneur de me nommer meilleur auteur de l'année 2024-2025. Voilà. Merci infiniment.
Merci beaucoup. À bientôt. Au revoir.
À bientôt and take care. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.